Reporting live from my friend Abigail's house. It's Miss Briscoe. Today, my friends are laughing at me. They're judging me.
No, okay, so nice. I love it.
So today we're going to talk about how to prove two triangles are congruent to each other. So last time we learned that when triangles are congruent to each other, all of their corresponding angles have to be congruent. So like angle A and angle D would have to be congruent. Angle E and angle B would have to be congruent. Angle C and angle F would have to be congruent. So we have to prove all three pairs of angles are congruent. Then we have to prove all three pairs of sides are congruent. That side ED is congruent to side AB, and that side BC is congruent to side EF. And then, let's switch the color, that side AC is congruent to side FD. If we had to prove all six of those things were congruent every time we had to prove two triangles were congruent, wouldn't that be so annoying? Y'all complain so much. Miss Briscoe, do we really have to prove all six? No, you don't. There's some shortcuts. My friends are totally judging me. There's some shortcuts that you're allowed to use to prove that two triangles are congruent. So you don't have to prove all six parts are congruent. There's some shortcuts that you're allowed to take. Now there's some shortcuts that you're not allowed to take, so pay close attention to which ones are good and which ones are bad. So the first one that you're allowed to use is called side, side, side. And you don't have to write out side, side, side. You can just write SSS. That's totally fine. So the S's stand for sides. So if you can prove that three pairs of corresponding sides are congruent, that's enough info for you to just shortcut and say, that's enough info for me to know that those two triangles are congruent. So if I know that side AB is congruent to side ED, if I know side BC is congruent to side EF, and if I know that side AC is congruent to side FD, that's enough information. I don't have to know anything about the angles. It's enough information for me to say, those two triangles are going to be congruent to each other. So I could say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle, and then this is where it's really important. You got to match up the corresponding sides. Write your letters in the right order. Side AB goes with side DE, so DE. And then BC goes with EF, so DEF. The order of the letters is super duper duper important. You gotta match up your corresponding sides. So I can say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF by side, side, side. Hooray! Okay, the next shortcut that you're allowed to use is side, angle, side. SAS. So if you know two pairs of sides and one pair of angles, two pairs of corresponding sides and one pair of corresponding angles are congruent, that's enough info to say that the triangles are congruent. But it's really important which angle you use. So if I say side AB is congruent to side ED, and if I know side BC is congruent to side EF, I would need to know that this included angle, the angle in between the two sides, I would need to know that this included angle is congruent to this included angle, angle E. So it's really important that it goes side, angle, side. The angle has to be in between the two sides that are congruent. So if I have two pairs of sides and the included angle and they're congruent to each other, that's enough info to say that those two triangles are congruent to each other by side, angle, side. So I could say triangle ABC is congruent to triangle DEF by side, angle, side. Next one is angle, angle.
Oh, I'm sorry, wrong one.
Yeah, my friend Abigail thought she knew what I was going to say. She was wrong, but we'll switch. We'll do that one. Angle, side, angle.
Yes.
Yay, she still remembers. See, it's like 10 years later and we still remember. Okay, angle, side, angle. So this is where you would need two pairs of angles and one pair of congruent sides. So I could say angle A is congruent to angle D. Angle B is congruent to angle E. And then notice it goes angle, side, angle. I have to pick the sides that are in between the two angles that are congruent. So it's like the included side. Angle, side, angle. Angle, side, angle. Then that's enough info for me to say, I don't have to know anything else. I just need to know those 3 parts are congruent to each other, and that's enough info to say that these 2 triangles are congruent to each other.